Welcome to Shadow of History, your destination for mysterious, dark, and untold stories from world history. In today's episode, we delve into one of the most perplexing maritime disappearances in history, the Franklin Expedition, a tale of ambition, mystery, and tragedy. This expedition has baffled historians and adventurers alike for over 170 years. What happened to Sir John Franklin and his crew? Why did they vanish in the icy waters of the Arctic? Let's uncover the dark story behind the Franklin Expedition. In 1845, Sir John Franklin, an experienced British naval officer and explorer, embarked on one of the most ambitious Arctic expeditions of the 19th century. Franklin's goal was to navigate the elusive Northwest Passage, a fabled sea route through the Arctic connecting the Atlantic to the Pacific. It was a prize that many explorers had tried and failed to find. Franklin, with his two ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, set out with a crew of 129 men, confident that they would be the ones to unlock this final frontier. The two ships were well equipped for the journey, with provisions that could sustain the crew for up to 3 years. The expedition was prepared for everything, except the one thing no one could anticipate: the extreme and hostile conditions of the Arctic. The men of the Franklin Expedition sailed into the icy waters of the Canadian Arctic archipelago, but what followed would become one of the greatest mysteries in the history of exploration. By 1847, the expedition had not made any communication with Britain, which raised concerns back home. The British Admiralty sent out search missions, but the fate of the Franklin expedition remained unknown. What had happened to Franklin and his crew? For years, no word was heard from the expedition, and its disappearance remained a haunting enigma. A series of search expeditions was launched, but no trace of Franklin or his men was found. Then, in 1850, a breakthrough came when an Inuit hunter reported seeing a group of ill men, apparently in distress, near the mouth of the Back River. This small clue would lead to one of the most chilling discoveries in the search for the Franklin expedition. In 1854, the famous explorer Sir John Rae, leading a search party, came across evidence that painted a horrifying picture of what had happened to the men of the Franklin expedition. Rae was shown a number of artifacts by the Inuit, including items that had belonged to the crew, as well as skeletal remains. But it was the most shocking discovery of all that sent shockwaves through the exploration community: signs of cannibalism. Rae's findings suggested that, after years of being trapped in the ice, the men of the Franklin expedition had resorted to desperate measures for survival. Some of the men had reportedly died from starvation and illness, while others had turned to cannibalism to stay alive in the harsh, unforgiving conditions. This grim revelation added a layer of mystery and tragedy to the already haunting disappearance. Despite these discoveries, the exact details of the expedition's demise remained unclear. Over the following decades, more searches were conducted, but the fate of Franklin and his crew remained shrouded in uncertainty. Some suggested that the ships had been locked in ice for years, while others believed the men had succumbed to illness or starvation. But the most compelling theory was that Franklin had led his men into an impossible situation, with insufficient planning and an underestimation of the Arctic's dangers. In the years since the Franklin expedition, more evidence has emerged, but many questions still remain. The wrecks of both the Erebus and the Terror were finally discovered in the 21st century, almost 170 years after the expedition set sail. In 2014, Canadian researchers discovered the Erebus in the waters off King William Island, and in 2016, the Terror was found nearby. These discoveries sparked a new wave of interest in the expedition, and modern technology is helping to shed light on the final days of Franklin and his crew. The wrecks provided new clues about what happened to the men of the Franklin expedition. It was discovered that both ships had been trapped in ice for some time before they were abandoned. There were signs of damage to the ships, suggesting that the men had tried, unsuccessfully, to break free. Evidence found on the Erebus suggested that the crew had made a last-ditch effort to survive by attempting to march south, hoping to reach a place of safety. But by then, it was too late. The discovery of the wrecks also revealed the incredible preservation of some of the artifacts, providing a glimpse into the lives of the men who had sailed into the Arctic's grasp. Yet even with these new discoveries, the complete story of what happened to the Franklin expedition remains elusive. What caused the expedition to fail so catastrophically? Was it poor planning, bad luck, or a combination of both? The mysterious disappearance of the Franklin expedition serves as a cautionary tale of human ambition and the unforgiving power of nature. It also reflects the lengths to which people will go in the face of unimaginable hardship. Franklin and his men set out to conquer the unknown, but they ultimately paid the price for their failure to understand the brutal reality of the Arctic environment. The Franklin expedition's disappearance remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in the annals of exploration. Though modern technology and research continue to uncover new details, there are still so many unanswered questions. What was the true cause of the disaster? How did Franklin's men endure in such extreme conditions? And what lessons can we learn from their fateful journey? Thank you for joining us on this dark journey into the shadows of history. If you found the story of the Franklin expedition compelling, please like this video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to Shadow of History for more mysterious, dark, and untold stories from the past. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the disappearance of the Franklin expedition. What do you think really happened to Sir John Franklin and his crew? Stay tuned for our next video, where we'll explore another captivating chapter in the history of forgotten and mysterious events. Until then, keep seeking the untold stories of the past, and remember, history is full of shadows, waiting to be discovered.